Cognizant to the needs of our learners, parents, and teachers, the Department of Education provided us with powerful tools for productivity that will allow us to foster critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, communication and collaboration skills to be compassionate, responsible global citizens. Join us and discover new ideas in our series of professional development training program with the ICT's Edtech Unit and Microsoft Education Philippines. Together, we will equip our learners and empower our fellow educators for a dynamic future. Para sa bata, para sa bayan, at para sa guro. Sulong Edukalidad.
Magandang araw, Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng ICT's Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Hello. Good afternoon, Philippines. Good afternoon, world. And welcome once again dito sa ating ETUlay online tutorial for contemporary Philippine arts from the region. I am your tutor for this afternoon, Tutor Mary Grace. So before I proceed, I also would like to greet my school head, Dr. Carla Marie D. Carandang of Quezon Science High School, my co-teachers, and of course, all Quezonianos out there who are watching this afternoon session for CPAR. At syempre, before I proceed, also I would like to greet our early birds dito sa ating comment box. Good afternoon, Ma'am or Sir Ali Dawami, Ma'am Jen Cabañas Miranda, Ma'am Gracel Himpit Francisco, Hannah Joyce, Vanessa, hi Ma'am Vanessa, Valenova Balasoto, I hope naglalaro ka na ng lawn tennis. Char, Ma'am Medel MCF, and Ma'am Mylene Banan Acosta. Thank you for being with me in our ETUlay online tutorial for CPAR. Okay, so let's proceed with the topic for this week. We are already in week 4 of the 4th quarter, and our topic will focus on approaches in researching contemporary art and practices. Okay, and then, of course, our reference for this online tutorial. This time I used the ADM developed by Department of Education NCRT. Thank you very much for lending us this reference. Our MELCs for this afternoon or for this week will be on the researches on techniques and performance practices applied to contemporary art. So we're not just doing the actual artworks themselves, but we're also going to have an in-depth discussion and view about how the artists prepare themselves before actually diving into making their own art. And then, of course, on the other side of the fence naman, if you're an audience for a particular piece of art, whether it's painting, sculpture, or theater, a play, syempre, dapat alam din natin what are these techniques and performance practices na ginagamit, especially when it comes to contemporary arts. So there you go. And of course, we're not going to end this particular lesson without reaching these objectives. Number one, to describe approaches in researching for techniques and practices appropriate for contemporary arts. Number two, to integrate patience throughout the process of looking for potential technique and practice in making art. Now, this objective, the second one, is very important because if you're aiming to become an artist, you should be able to allocate your time into understanding and knowing these processes. Okay, and then finally, to devise a personal action plan for art technique selection and application. So ayan. So at the end of the lesson, the final output that you should have is an action plan for a particular art technique or for particular art endeavor that you would like to start on. Okay, so these are our objectives for this lesson. Now, in our previous lesson, we learned about the traditional techniques in the Philippines, such as wood carving, molding, fabric weaving, and basketry techniques. Okay, so we learned how these different techniques are applied onto different materials to produce different art forms. Okay, and now, before we proceed to the actual lesson, we're going to have a very simple game. Usually, I call this buy a letter, but since I will not be able to, give you digital coins like bitcoins, for example, to buy a letter, let's just say this is a guess a letter game. Okay, so you're going to complete each word in the slide by guessing the five missing letters correctly. So these words are related to art in general. I prepared three words for this part of our lesson. So if you are if you are watching during the last or the previous sessions of our online ETUlay tutorial, then you will have an idea of what these words are. If not, these are very easy to guess. Okay, so again, for every word, you need to guess five correct letters. Okay, so that you'll be able to find out what that word is. Are you ready? Before I proceed, I'd like to say good afternoon and shout out to Paula May Saralde. Welcome once again to our online ETUlay tutorial. Ma'am Rona Feontuca, Sir Jester Pagkaliwagan, good evening also. Sir Ariel Mendoza, good afternoon. Ma'am Milky Red, and Ma'am Mylene Banan Acosta. Okay, so are you ready to guess the missing letters? All right, for every slide, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to type in your guesses in our chat box. Are you ready? All right, let's proceed to the first word. Okay, so again, there are five missing letters, and this is your hint for this word. An artist's best work. 10 seconds, you can begin typing right now. So once again, good afternoon, Jana May Manyas and Rika Ruma, again from Quezon Science High School. Thank you for watching this afternoon's session. Do you have answer for this word? What do you think are the missing letters here? Or if you know the word, you can type it in our chat box. Okay, for our viewers out there, they answered masterpiece, 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 masterpiece. I guess this one is really an easy one. So the missing letters are M, S, T, P, and letter C. And of course, the word you have after having those letters is masterpiece. Say a masterpiece is the best work, okay, done by a particular art in any fields of the arts or the contemporary arts. Okay, are you ready for the second one? Okay, if you're ready, just type in your answer in our chat box, in our comment box, and this is the word we're looking for. Okay, 10 seconds. This is your hint. Present time. 10 seconds. Start typing right now. Okay, good afternoon once again, Ma'am Mary Chris Murillo. Thank you for joining us. Ma'am Luisa Diga, Ma'am Jocelyn Albiza de Lima, and Ma'am Angel Faith Ilagan of Quezon Science High School, Ma'am Maria Stella Bayhon, and they all answered contemporary. Let's see if you're correct. The missing letters for this word are, we have the letter N, letter T, letter R, A, and finally we have the letter Y, and it forms the word contemporary. So it refers to the present time, and this is the core of our subject, no, learning all about the contemporary arts in the country. And finally, for our third word this afternoon, before we start our lesson. Okay, so the hint for this one is techniques are applied on these things. 10 seconds. You may start typing right now. What do you think is this word, or what are the missing letters? Okay, good afternoon, Sir Sander Grant, Ma'am Juliet Taganahan Bibera, Ma'am Rona Faye Ontuka. Okay, do you have an answer for our third word? Okay, Paula May says material. Let's see if you are correct. So the missing letters for this word are letter M, we have letter E, letter R, letter A, and finally letter S. So Paula May, you're just one letter short, but you also have the correct answer, just in plural form. Materials. So all the techniques that an artist can learn, he or she can apply them on different materials. Kung wood carving yun, pwede sa wood i-apply, etc., etc. So as long as the artist know how to work with the materials, he or she can produce a masterpiece. There you go. So the three letters that we have, the three words that we have for this guess the letter game are masterpiece, contemporary, and material. So these words are related to the subject of art. There you go. And now let's proceed. Let's dive into our lesson for this afternoon. Okay. So have you ever had a chance to activate your sharingan? Your art sense. Okay. So it's very important that a certain person will have not just an eye for art, but also the sense for art. Hindi lang ito dun sa part ng artist himself or herself, but also dun sa audience ng kanyang art. So you need to activate your art sense. How do we do that? Okay, we need to cultivate, sustain, continuously develop our sense of artistic knowing. Hindi know-how, ha? Okay, artistic knowing. Okay, so what are the steps to achieve, what are the way to achieve, to activate this kind of sense? We're going to find that later on. Okay, but it's very important that we have artistic knowing sense. For example, if we have this kind of painting, this one is done or was done by Rafael Perez, who is a contemporary painter known for producing paintings which talk about love, and lovers, genderless, boundless, timeless, love and lovers. So in this painting, it's very easy to pinpoint that it has colors, the playful application of colors, shapes, lines, patterns. Diyan naman kilala si Rafael Perez with the very exciting use of colors and shapes, no? So in contemporary painting. But beyond these colors, shapes, lines, and patterns, you also need to understand its meaning, its message, and the communication that is beginning to be established between you and the artist. Okay? Pwede rin namang three-way between you, the artist, and the message of the masterpiece. This all encompasses what we call as artistic knowing. So you do not just look at a piece of art, okay, but you start to delve further about what meaning it has, what message it wants to deliver, and what kind of communication is being established, okay, between the artist and the audience, or between the artist, the audience, and the message itself. This is artistic knowing. Okay, this is very important, not just not just in admiring a particular art form, Okay, but in understanding its value, in understanding its connection to the culture and to the society. Okay, so how do we practice, or what do we get from activating our artistic knowing sense? So it is actually the heart of integrative art-based processes. So when you start doing all the processes involved in art and art making, okay, you begin to open, okay, your sense of artistic knowing. Parang third eye lang, ano? Kaya ito, hindi naman siguro. So when you begin to open that kind of heart, okay, you do not just appreciate art itself. You do not just appreciate Mona Lisa or Spoliarium, but you begin to understand, okay, three important things. What are those things? The revelation of the art's meaning, okay, the unraveling of the message, and the establishment of communication. That's why may mga artists na pag sinabi natin cubism, o kilala na agad natin kung sino yung mga nagsasagawa ng cubism. Pag sinabing sculptor, for example, in the Philippines, meron agad tayong masasabi kung sino yung mga sculptors na yon. Bakit? Kasi they have already established great communication with the audience and with the art itself. Okay, and the audience already understands the message that they want to unravel, the message that they want the audience to understand, and of course, the meaning behind the artwork. Okay, lahat ng tatlong ito, okay, we can know them, we can do them by opening our sense of artistic knowing. So whether you're open-minded or closed-minded when it comes to art, okay, it's not just the art, the colors, the shapes, the patterns, and the lines that we see, but we have to know the meaning, we have to discover the message, and we have to communicate with the art and with the artist. That way, we are going to activate our art sense. Okay, so there you go. This is how you activate your art sense, and this is its importance. So basically, if you are going to start making art, okay, you really have to, ideally, you have to follow certain steps. So, kung hindi ka naman magiging artist at itatry mo lang just for the sake of trying, okay, baka sakaling maintindihan mo, maunawaan mo kung ano ba yung artistic knowing, you still have to follow this ideal step-by-step procedure. This is what we call the house of art production. So, yung ibang artists probably they also followed these approaches or this step-by-step procedure. Okay, but then again, hindi lang naman ito essentially applicable sa art production. You can also do this in other aspects of your activities. Kung yun man ay pagsasagawa ng training design, kung yan man ay even as simple as cooking, pwede mo ring, or kung anong lutuin para sa tanghalian, sa dinner, pwede mo ring sundin tong steps na to. But in art production, these processes, they are very essential before you can really, consider yourself as an established artist. Okay, so there you go. And these steps, okay, they are the typical ones, okay, that we can do to accomplish different art tasks. Okay, before I proceed to the approaches, so let me say good afternoon to Ma'am Johaira Mipantao Haron, and thank you for watching our ETUlay session this afternoon. So we have actually 5 approaches. The first one will be brainstorming, followed by researching about the task given, deciding on what idea to materialize, creating a plan of action, and finally making the task. So very easy and very few steps or approaches to accomplish a particular art task. Now, when you buy, syempre, yung mga nabibili na natin na parang DIY artworks sa department stores or sa bookstores, syempre, you still have to follow this, diba? Kasi mag-brainstorm ka with yourself, for example, ano ba yung gusto kong isimulang DIY, diba? So, these are not applicable only in art production. But since our subject is CIPAR, syempre, we're going to really focus, okay, on these steps as part of art production. So, brainstorming. So, this is a very common word that we always hear, especially when there are group works that need to be done in our classes, for example. But in art production, this is also important. So, it refers to the generation of ideas, Okay, what to do and how to accomplish an artwork, because it's very important for a person to know how to brainstorm. So it is effective in looking for central ideas that will most likely boost interest on the matter at hand, provides direction for art making, and kindles flexible thinking. So ito yung time na parang you need to think out of the box. You need all your creative juices to get flowing. Okay? And when you say brainstorming, sometimes you do it by yourself, pwedeng yung post-it method, just like the one we see on the left side of our slide, or you do it with others. Because sabi nga natin, two heads are better than one, or more heads are better than one, just like in the picture. Pero whatever suits your taste, whatever will get you going into creating art, just follow it. Follow your heart, kumbaga. Pwedeng as simple as the method of index card, di ba? Pag nagagawa tayo ng reporting natin, when we brainstorm with ourselves, we can write it down. Okay, so there you go. That is brainstorming. The second approach would be researching about the task given. So nakapag-brainstorm ka na, okay, may let's say from 1,000 ideas that you have, okay, you narrowed it down to 3. Okay, from 1,000 to 3. So those 3 ideas, main ideas that you would like to choose the best one from, okay, you can research about them. Okay, so bakit kailangan ng research? So, magpo-produce lang naman ako ng artwork. Okay, magpo-produce lang naman ako ng, for example, soap carving. Magpo-produce lang naman ako ng pagkain. Okay, so hindi ibig sabihin hindi kailangan ng research sa mga bagay na yon. Because we're talking about production here. So it involves certain process. At lahat ng nag-involve ng process wherein there is an output at the end, you need to research all about it. Lahat ng sides, lahat ng angulo. Because it fuels exploration. Kung artist ka, you want to explore more about what materials to use when it comes to carving, di ba? So the research will help you identify these materials. And the same time, yung ding mga tools na pwede mong gamitin for every material. So the more you explore, the more ideas you will gather. Yun nga lang, fair warning, because when you do researches and you already decided, for example, on 3 ideas, tapos nag-research ka, may nakita kang iba, okay, i-insert mo na i-insert yun sa mga ideas mo hanggang sa dumami ulit yung iyong ideas. So, is researching good or bad? At the end of the day, it's still good for your art production. Now, researching is good for everything actually kasi it does not give you only additional knowledge, but also gives you time to really decide on what you want to do. Yun nga lang, pag nag-procrastinate ka, then goodbye sa na-research mo. So this is best for an artist to clarify what he or she really wants to accomplish. So let's say, nagsimula ka na gusto mo ng painting, nag-explore ka, and then nakita mo na, pwede naman palang gantong artwork na lang ang gawin ko. Mas madali. O kaya hindi masyadong time-consuming, etc. Yung mga bagay na yon, you're able to have those ideas because you did some research. So researching simplifies choices and helps achieve proper understanding about the given task. So maybe from 1,000 to 3, you can even narrow it down to 1, diba? At the end of your research. So when it comes to researching, okay, you can research practically anywhere where there is, for example, internet. You can also go to the library, but maybe not this time because it's still pandemic. I'm not sure if there are libraries which are open as publicly as before. Okay, but you can also do that. Okay, so the best way these days to do research is through the internet, or you can really physically explore the world. That is also research. And that is first-hand experience kind of research. You can travel, you can go to anywhere where you think there will be good material for your art production. Then let's proceed to the third approach of art production. And this is deciding on what idea to materialize. So you have done the brainstorming part, you're done with the research part, you now have to decide, okay, what idea you're going to push through with. Okay, what will materialize after all the processes that you have undergone? So after gathering all inputs from brainstorming and researching, you should arrive at a final choice. On this step, the artist must have acquired enough background or information about his or her target output. Okay, from 1,000 to 3, I want junk art, I want to try collage, and I want to try decoupage, for example. After researching about these things, with the materials I have, I discovered that I can only do collage. So I will focus on collage. That is my target output. And that should be decided on the third step. Okay? This is the decision-making part of these approaches. So it's also important for an artist to know these things. Kaya nga, nag-research siya para malaman niya na, okay, gusto ko to, kaya lang, kulang yung, based on my research ko, kulangin ako sa materyales. So, hindi ko pwedeng i-push through ito. So, slash. So, nababawasan until makarating tayo sa third step na ang natitira na lang is, let's say, dalawa, and then you can decide. Parang ano na lang yan, ini, mini, mo, no? Pero, nagsagawa ka naman ng research before you can do ini, mini, mo. Before you can actually decide on what idea you're going to push through with, on what kind of art you're going to produce at the end of these steps. All right? So that is the third step, deciding on what idea to materialize. So when you try to decide, of course, you can still do some background check if what you have decided upon is still plausible and possible with what time you have, with what materials you have. That is also important. Okay, and then it's also important that after you have decided, you cannot stay thinking about what to do next. You need to proceed immediately to the next step. And that will be creating a plan of action. So according to Benjamin Franklin, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So this is a very famous quote from Franklin, and hindi lang ito applicable in art production. Even in politics, is strategizing for other courses that we have to do in our lives. Nagagamit itong sinabi ni Franklin, no? That if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. What does it mean? It only means that for every action that we do, there should be a certain course of plan, a certain design, a certain matrix that we have to follow, that you have to follow if you want to achieve your goals. So dapat palaging may plano, di ba? Sa architecture, palaging may plano. Sa pagsasagawa ng pagpapaint, may plano din. So it's not just you wake up and immediately you're going to produce your artwork. So you have to undergo certain processes. Maybe for those who are already used to how their bodily mechanisms go, pwede silang diretso. Okay? From thinking what to do, what kind of art to produce, to actually creating the art. Pwede yon, shortcut. Kung na-establish mo na yung sarili mo using these approaches or undergoing these processes. Okay, so these processes, this fourth step solidifies one's stand on planning for any task in contemporary art. So any task, meaning whatever kind of art you want to produce, dito na sa pagka-create ng plan of action, dito na ito nagsisimulang mag-materialize. Naka-decide ka na eh. So magsisimulan mo ng i-materialize kung ano yung napag-desisyonan mong gawin. So one way to reach success and achieve your goal is to create a solid plan of action. Okay, solid plan of action meaning no loopholes, no excuses, a plan of action that can be executed or implemented immediately. Okay, because art should not wait. Diba? When producing art, it should not wait. Okay, the world is continuously evolving, so art should not wait. That's one idea that we can use to motivate ourselves when we start planning for our target output in contemporary art. So likewise, a clear criteria and technique will empower one's determination to accomplish the task. What does it mean? Pwede kang mag-set ng sub-goals or sub-objectives Okay, na pwede mong ma-reach first step doon sa iyong plan of action. And then ano ba ang techniques ang gagamitin mo to reach them? Okay, we're not just talking about the traditional techniques that we discussed the last time in this part of our art production. We're also talking about time management. That is also a technique. Material management and availability. That is also a technique. How we're going to handle them. Okay, when a crisis arises um, in your plan of action, how are you going to deal with it? So kasama na yun lahat sa paggagawa ng plan of action. And that is step number 4. Okay, so ayan, like what I said, even an engineer or an architect, even what do you call that? Even a foreman will have a plan in a construction site, okay, just to execute certain actions and achieve certain goals. So kahit as simple as putting it in a cardboard or a scrap paper, that will do as a plan of action. Okay, as long as it will help you achieve your goal. Okay, and when you're already done with your plan of action, you can proceed to finally producing your art, and that is step 5. Okay, making the task. This step is the doing part, where you actually do the artwork that you would like to achieve. So if it's a collage, for example, you can in this step you can already prepare the materials needed. Okay, you can start doing a draft of your final output, and you can start the actual art making itself. So the artist can now materialize the plan that he or she has created. From the final idea pa lang nung una, to the final plan, to the final output. Okay? He or she must strictly follow what he or she has set to do. So pero syempre, you must give space for mistakes, 'di ba? For variables that you can control as an artist. Okay, so dapat meron ka ring technique or strategy on how to deal with it. So appropriate techniques, materials, styles, and other art elements must be applied as part of the art making process. So dito na papasok yung mga napag-aralan nating techniques and materials in our previous lessons. Kasama yung principles and elements of art. So all these things together, sinisimulan mo na itong gawin while finally doing, okay, all the procedures you need to do so that you can produce your artwork, your art form, okay, or your masterpiece. Yeah, so katulad sinabi ko kayo na kung collage yun, na-prepare mo na yung materials, glue, scissors, all the cutout pictures, etc., etc., dapat at the end of the day, okay, dapat makikita mo na ito na yung output ko, ito na yung collage ko. Okay? Kaya mahalaga din yung time management. So, pwede namang gamitan mo ito ng Gantt chart. Diba? Meron na sa Excel. Anbawa, 7 to 10, brainstorming. Okay? And then, etc. until 5 p.m., nandiyan na yung iyong, voila, nandiyan na yung iyong collage. Okay? So, these are the steps that you have to follow if you want to be able to produce an artwork. Okay? So, yan. So, you can start the doing part, okay, without any excuses dapat, without any alibi. You can start it actually kung saan mo pinaplano talagang gawin yung art piece mo. Pwedeng sa loob ng bahay, pwedeng sa tabi ng kalsada, or anywhere that may give you inspiration, okay, to be really able to produce your art form. Okay, so mahalaga yung environment sa isang artist kung saan niya nasisimulang gawin ang kanyang kung saan niya nasisimulang isipin yung kanyang mga ideas. Pwedeng hindi doon siya magtatapos sa lugar na yon para ma-produce yung kanyang art form. Pwedeng mag-iba yung environment. It really depends on the person, on the artist. Okay? So those are the typical approaches in accomplishing art tasks. So let's review. We have brainstorming. The second one, researching about the task given. Deciding on what idea to materialize. Number 4 is creating a plan of action. And finally, making the task. All right. So what are the takeaways in this lesson? So today, we learned all about the sense of art knowing. Okay, this is the sense of not just being able to do art, but also what? Understanding the meaning of the art piece, unraveling the message, and establishing communication with the art itself and with the artist. That is the true sense of art knowing. And then also, we learned about the typical approaches or steps or procedure in accomplishing different art tasks. So these are brainstorming up to making the task. And there you go. That is our lesson for the day. And as you may know, it's already time for quiz time. In this part, okay, I have 5 pictures, okay, which I actually took from the previous slides. I would like you to number them, okay, according to the steps or the procedure that we discussed in accomplishing art task. Which do you think is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, what do you think is the number for the first picture? You can type in your answer in our chat box. Okay, what is the number of the second picture, the third picture, the fourth picture, and the fifth picture? Of course, these are not arranged according to what I discussed. You have to rearrange them. All right? So before I give you the answers, I would like to say good afternoon again, Sir Ariel Mendoza. Thank you very much for the lovely message. Sir Sander Grant. And okay, we have an answer here from Paula May Saralde. She said 15234. That's her answer for this picture. Let us see if she got the correct answer. So the arrangement of this picture is that number 1 should be brainstorming. Number 2 is the third picture, which is researching about the task given. Number 3 is the fourth picture, which is deciding on what idea to materialize. Number 4 is creating a plan of action, and that is the fifth picture. And finally, the second picture is actually number 5, making the task. So like what I said, pwedeng magbago environment yung artist kung saan niya finally mapoproduce yung kanyang art form or artwork. So there you go. 15234. I believe Paula May got the correct answer for this one. Congratulations, Paula May of Quezon Science High School. Napaka-active niya, and thank you once again for joining me in this afternoon session. And it's not yet the end, because as what I've said in my FB post, for my quote and unquote moment. Remember my post where I asked you kung kilala nyo ba kung sino yung nakapag-produce na ng 50,000 different artworks, from paintings to sculptures, etc. Okay, this is actually he. And this is Pablo Picasso, the most prolific artist in the world, producing about 50,000 artworks. And he said, and I quote, "The chief enemy of creativity is good sense," unquote, by Pablo Picasso. What does it mean? Okay? The chief enemy of creativity is good sense. There is somehow an ironic combination of the words enemy and good. Okay? Enemy and good. Why? Why are these words used in this quotation from Picasso? It's because when you look at art, okay, you do not just need to see what is good. It has to be a balance of what is bad and what is good. Sometimes pa nga, mas ma-appreciate natin yung good sense when there are too much bad around it. And when it comes to creativity, hindi dapat ito nililimit ng good sense lang. Okay? Kasi pag good sense lang yung ginamit natin in producing, for example, an artwork, okay, then how are we going to identify if we're creating mistakes? Okay, if we're creating loopholes in our work, diba? So it has to be a balance between the good and the bad. Okay, kagaya ng sinabi ko, sometimes we can appreciate good if it's really surrounded by bad sense, no? So, di ba, even in publicity, sinasabi natin na bad publicity is still publicity. It somehow relates to this, ano? So, whether it's good sense or bad sense, it really doesn't matter. What matters is the creativity is there. The art is there. And you know it. Okay? Because there is a balance, in your mind, there is a balance between good and bad. So there you go. So that's Pablo Picasso saying the chief enemy of creativity is good sense. And that ends our lesson for this afternoon. I hope that once again you have learned something about art, especially for this subject, contemporary Philippine arts from the regions. So thank you once again to all those people and students and teachers also who are with me in our comment box and who are still watching right now in our online ETUlay tutorial. Once again, I am Tutor Mary Grace for Senior High School CPAR subject. Please be with us tomorrow in our Wednesday morning habit. Good afternoon and goodbye.